The day my siblings mocked me for being Uncle Marcus's servant was the same day I learned I'd inherited his entire fortune. Funny how life works sometimes. My name is Alice, and for the past 3 years, I've been taking care of my uncle while working remotely as a content writer. Not exactly the glamorous life my siblings chose, but it was honest work that let me help someone I loved. Look who finally made it to a family dinner, Celeste announced as I walked into her newly renovated kitchen. Did Uncle Marcus give you the night off? I forced a smile, setting down the casserole I'd brought. He insisted I come, he's doing better today. Vincenzo, sprawled on the leather couch with his usual glass of whiskey, snorted. Better? The man's got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel. You're wasting your life, sis. Unlike you, I muttered under my breath, but nobody heard me over Giselle's theatrical entrance. Oh my God, Alice. She air-kissed both my cheeks. That outfit is so practical. Still shopping at Target? I smoothed down my simple black dress, fighting back the urge to remind her about the maxed-out credit cards our parents had to pay off for her last year. Stephen, my boyfriend, squeezed my hand under the table during dinner. He'd been my rock through all of this, understanding why I chose to help Uncle Marcus when everyone else had written him off as a bitter old man. I just don't get it, Giselle said, twirling her wine glass. You could be traveling the world, meeting people, living life. Instead, you're changing adult diapers and watching Wheel of Fortune reruns. He doesn't wear... I started to protest, but Celeste cut me off. At least she's got job security until he kicks the bucket. She laughed. Though I doubt he's leaving you anything in the will, Alice. He's probably donating it all to his cat sanctuary or whatever. My phone buzzed. Uncle Marcus's nurse. I excused myself to take the call, ignoring the dramatic sighs from my siblings. Alice? Rachel's voice was gentle but urgent. You need to come to the house. Now. The drive was a blur. I arrived to find Rachel, our family lawyer, waiting on the porch with red-rimmed eyes. He went peacefully, she said, hugging me. He was asking for you. The next 48 hours passed in a haze of funeral arrangements and paperwork. My siblings showed up for the service, of course. Celeste even managed to squeeze out a few tears for the cameras. Uncle Marcus had been a prominent figure in local business, and the turnout was impressive. If everyone's ready, Rachel said after the reception, Marcus left specific instructions about the will reading. We gathered in his study, the room where I'd spent countless hours reading to him, listening to his stories, learning about his life. My siblings lounged on the leather furniture, probably already mentally spending whatever small inheritance they expected. Rachel cleared her throat. Marcus Walton, being of sound mind, hereby leaves his entire estate, including all properties, businesses, and financial assets, to his niece, Alice Parker. The silence was deafening. What? Vincenzo stood up so fast he knocked over a side table. That's impossible. There must be some mistake. Celeste's voice shook. We're his family too. The will is quite clear, Rachel continued. Alice receives everything, valued at approximately $47 million. I heard Giselle's champagne glass shatter on the hardwood floor. Furthermore, Rachel added, Marcus left a letter explaining his decision. She handed me an envelope with trembling fingers. My dearest Alice, they'll call it favoritism. They'll say you manipulated me. But we both know the truth. You saw me as a person, not a bank account. You listened when no one else would. You gave me back my dignity when illness tried to take it away. I'm trusting you with my legacy because you understand what really matters. Don't let them pressure you into sharing just because they're family. Make them earn it, like you did. Show them there's more to life than money. All my love, Uncle Marcus. I looked up from the letter to find my siblings staring at me with a mixture of shock, anger, and, finally, respect. So, Vincenzo said, his voice suddenly honey-sweet, I guess we should talk about family taking care of family, right? I folded the letter carefully and put it in my purse. You're right, Vincenzo. We should definitely talk about family. I stood up, straightening my practical Target dress. But not today. I think we all need some time to process this. As I walked out of the study, I heard Giselle burst into tears. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to comfort her. Uncle Marcus had given me more than money. He'd given me the power to reshape our family's future, and I intended to use it. The call started exactly 3 days after the will reading. I was in Uncle Marcus's study. My study now, sorting through decades of paperwork when my phone lit up with Celeste's name. Alice, sweetie. Her voice dripped with artificial sweetness. I've been thinking about you. How are you holding up? I set down a stack of old photographs. I'm fine, Celeste. Just busy. Of course, of course. Listen, I hate to bring this up, but… She paused dramatically. My therapist thinks I'm having a breakthrough, but I might have to stop sessions. The bills are just… That's terrible, I said, remembering all the times she'd mocked my wasteful therapy sessions years ago. Have you considered getting a job? The silence on the other end was delicious. A job? She sounded like I'd suggested she swim with sharks. Alice, you know my condition. Sorry, someone's at the door. We'll talk later. I hung up, only to have Vincenzo's name pop up immediately. Little sis. His voice was suspiciously clear. None of the usual slurring. Remember that business idea I told you about last Christmas? The cryptocurrency casino? No, the other one. The legitimate one. About helping people? I couldn't remember any such conversation. Must have slipped my mind. Well, I've got it all planned out. Just need some startup capital. Say, $2 million. I'll pay you back with interest. Stephen walked in with 2 cups of coffee, raising an eyebrow at my expression. I put the phone on speaker. Vincenzo, remember last year when you said I was throwing my life away by helping Uncle Marcus? I was in a bad place then, he backpedaled. I've changed. Speaking of change, I found this amazing rehab facility. Goodbye, Vincenzo. Stephen handed me my coffee. That's the 3rd call today? 4th. Giselle texted about her life-changing fashion line idea. I showed him the message, complete with crying emojis and promises of making me proud. What are you going to do? He sat down across from me, genuine concern in his eyes. I don't know yet, but Uncle Marcus's letter said to make them earn it. I picked up another photograph. Uncle Marcus at a charity gala, beaming beside a group of caregivers. He was always more than his money. They never saw that. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Rachel. Alice, can you come to my office tomorrow? There's something about the estate you need to see. Is everything okay? Yes, but… She hesitated. Your uncle left some specific instructions, and I think you'll want to hear them in person. After hanging up, I spent the next hour going through more papers. Hidden between tax documents and business reports, I found photographs of my siblings with Uncle Marcus from years ago. Celeste helping him garden, Vincenzo learning to play chess, Giselle showing him her first fashion sketches. They used to care before money and status became their only goals. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. I opened it to find Giselle on my doorstep, mascara streaked down her face. My landlord's evicting me, she sobbed, pushing past me into the foyer. I need help, Alice. Please. Like how you helped me when I asked to borrow money for Uncle Marcus's medication last year? She flinched. That was different. I didn't have it then. But you have more than enough now. You're right. I crossed my arms. I do have enough. Enough to help people who actually deserve it. I'm your sister, and I was your sister when you told everyone I was Uncle Marcus's gold-digging nurse. She stepped back, shock replacing the tears. You heard about that. I heard everything, Giselle. Every joke, every snide comment, every time you all laughed at me for caring about him. I opened the door wider. Come back when you want to be a real sister, not just a professional victim. After she left, Stephen found me in the study again, staring at the old photos. You okay? They weren't always like this, I said softly. Something changed them. Maybe the money can change them back. What do you mean? I picked up Uncle Marcus's letter again, focusing on one particular line. Make them earn it, like you did. I think I know what I want to do, I said slowly. But first, I need to talk to Rachel tomorrow. Uncle Marcus always had a plan. I have a feeling he left me more than just money. Stephen smiled, understanding in his eyes. You're not planning to just give them what they want, are you? No, I said, looking at the photo of Uncle Marcus at the charity gala. I'm planning to give them what they need, whether they like it or not. I set my alarm for the meeting with Rachel, already forming ideas in my mind. Uncle Marcus taught me that true wealth isn't about having money. It's about what you do with it. Tomorrow, I'd start putting that lesson to work. Rachel's office felt smaller than I remembered, probably because of the stacks of documents covering every surface. She gestured for me to sit while pulling out a thick manila envelope. Before we start, she said. I need to show you something. She slid a photograph across the desk. Do you recognize her? The photo showed a young woman, maybe my age, with Uncle Marcus's distinctive green eyes. My heart skipped a beat. That's Palmer, isn't it? His daughter? Rachel nodded. The one who disappeared 10 years ago. Marcus never stopped looking for her. He never talked about her. I picked up the photo, studying the familiar features. I knew she existed, but because it hurt too much. Rachel opened the manila envelope. What I'm about to show you isn't just a will, Alice. It's a blueprint. She spread out several documents, property deeds, business plans, and what looked like preliminary paperwork for a foundation. The Marcus Walton Foundation for Family Caregivers, I read aloud. He started planning this years ago, Rachel explained, but he needed someone who understood his vision. That's why he chose you. But why didn't he tell me? Because he wanted to see what you'd do with complete freedom. She pulled out another document. This is his personal journal. Read this entry. I recognized Uncle Marcus's shaky handwriting. Alice brings me tea every morning, not because she has to, but because she knows I like watching the sunrise. My other nieces and nephews see my money. Alice sees me. She'll know what to do with this foundation. She'll understand it's not about charity. It's about transformation. He knew, I whispered. He knew I'd want to help them, not just give them money. Keep reading. The foundation must support caregivers, but it needs to create them too. Show people the value of caring for others. Maybe then Palmer will understand why I couldn't give her everything she wanted. Maybe then she'll come home. There's more, Rachel said, pulling out another folder. He left detailed plans for different programs, support groups for families dealing with addiction, mental health resources, career development for caregivers, everything you'd need to help people like my siblings, I finished, but also like Palmer. Rachel's expression softened. He never gave up hope that she'd return. The foundation was his way of building a bridge back to her. Do you know where she is? Last we heard, she was in Seattle, working as a nurse, ironically enough. Rachel handed me a business card. This is her work number. I pocketed the card, my mind racing. What about the rest of the estate? The foundation gets the bulk of it, but you have complete control over how it's used. She smiled. Marcus trusted your judgment. So I could, theoretically, create positions within the foundation? Specific roles for specific people? Absolutely, as long as they're qualified or willing to become qualified. I thought about Celeste's therapy struggles, Vincenzo's addiction, Giselle's need for purpose. And we could provide training, education. The foundation can fund whatever programs you think will fulfill its mission. Rachel paused. But Alice, be careful. Power can change people, both those who have it and those who want it. My phone buzzed. Another text from Vincenzo about his business idea. I think power already changed them, I said. Maybe it's time to change them back. Rachel handed me a key. This opens Marcus's private safe. There's one more letter in there for you. He said to read it when you're ready to start the foundation. On my way home, I pulled into the parking lot of Uncle Marcus's favorite diner. I used to bring him here on good days when he could still manage short trips. The waitress recognized me. Your usual booth? She asked. Please. I sat where Uncle Marcus always sat, ordering his favorite coffee. I pulled out Palmer's card, then my phone. My finger hovered over the numbers. Need a refill, hun? The waitress appeared with a pot of coffee. No, thanks. Just working up the courage to make a call. She smiled knowingly. Your uncle used to say courage isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing anyway. I dialed before I could change my mind. 3 rings, then, Seattle General, Palmer speaking. My heart raced. Hi, Palmer. You don't know me, but I'm Alice, your father's niece. Silence. If you're calling about the will, I don't want anything. I'm calling about his foundation, the one he was building for you. Another pause. What foundation? Can we meet? There's so much you need to know. About him, about why he did what he did, about how much he loved you. I heard her take a shaky breath. I'm off next weekend. I'll fly you here. First class. No strings attached. Just come see what he built, what we could build together. After hanging up, I looked at Uncle Marcus's empty seat across from me. I hope I'm doing this right, I whispered. The foundation would be my revenge, but not the kind my siblings would expect. Uncle Marcus taught me that the best revenge isn't about destroying people, it's about rebuilding them. The week before Palmer's visit, Celeste showed up unannounced at my door. Her eyes were red, hands trembling as she clutched her designer purse. "I need to talk to you," she said, pushing past me into the house. "And I need you to just listen." I led her to the kitchen where she collapsed onto a bar stool. "Want some tea?" She shook her head. I stopped taking my meds. The kettle I was filling clattered against the sink. "What? Why?" "Couldn't afford them, or the therapy." She laughed bitterly. "Funny how fast savings disappear when you haven't worked in 3 years." I set 2 mugs down anyway, dropping tea bags into both. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because—" She took a shaky breath. "Because you were right, about getting a job, about everything. But I can't do it alone anymore." "And you want money?" "No." She grabbed my hand. "Well, yes, but not like that. I want help. Real help, like how you helped Uncle Marcus." I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation. Instead, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. My sister, scared and vulnerable. "What about your husband?" I asked. "Can't he help?" "We're separated, have been for 2 months." She stared into her untouched tea. "Turns out day drinking and maxing out credit cards isn't attractive to successful lawyers." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Palmer. "Flight landed, heading to hotel. Still on for dinner?" "Celeste," I said slowly, "what if I told you I'm starting a foundation? One that helps people like you?" She looked up. "What kind of help?" "Therapy, job training, support groups. But it's not a handout. You'd have to work for it." "Work how?" "Eventually. You'd help others who struggle with mental health. Share your experience. But first, you'd need to focus on getting better." She was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you doing this?" "Because Uncle Marcus taught me something. Sometimes people need a hand up, not a handout." "And you'd trust me? After everything?" I pulled out my laptop, opening the foundation's draft proposal. "Read this. It's what Uncle Marcus wanted. What I want, but only if you're serious." She started reading, tears falling onto the keyboard. This is real, isn't it? As real as you want it to be." I handed her a tissue. "But you have to commit. No more games." "When can I start?" "First, you need to get back on your meds. I'll cover them temporarily through the foundation. Then we'll work on the rest." She hugged me suddenly, something she hadn't done since we were kids. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." After Celeste left, I headed to the restaurant where I was meeting Palmer. She was already there, looking so much like Uncle Marcus it hurt. "I almost didn't come," she said as I sat down. "I'm glad you did." "Why did you really call me?" Her green eyes, his eyes, fixed on mine. I pulled out Uncle Marcus's journal. "Because he wrote about you every day." She flinched. "I don't want to hear about—" "He was building this foundation for you," I interrupted. "Not just for you to inherit, but for you to understand." "Understand what? That money was more important than his daughter? That helping others was more important than enabling them?" I opened the journal to a marked page. "Read it." She took it reluctantly. "Palmer wants me to fund another business venture. Says this one will work. But I've watched her start and fail 3 times, burning through money without learning. She thinks I'm punishing her. I'm trying to save her. Sometimes love means saying no." Palmer's hands shook. "He wrote this? There's more. About how proud he was when you became a nurse. How he kept every article about your volunteer work in Seattle." "He knew about that?" I nodded. "He never stopped watching over you. Never stopped loving you." She wiped her eyes. "It's too late now." "No, it's not." I slid the foundation proposal across the table. "Help me build this. Help me do what he wanted. Teach people the value of caring for others." "Why me?" "Because you already understand it. You're a nurse. You help people every day. That's exactly what he wanted for you." She started reading, her expression changing from skepticism to interest. This could actually work. "It already is. My sister Celeste just agreed to be our first participant." Palmer looked up. "The foundation helps families?" It helps anyone who needs to learn what you and I already know, that true worth isn't in a bank account. It's in what we give back. She was quiet for a long time, flipping through the proposal. Finally, she said, I have vacation time saved up. Maybe I could help set up the mental health programs. I smiled, feeling Uncle Marcus's presence between us. I think he'd like that. The foundation's office space was still under renovation when Vincenzo stumbled in, reeking of alcohol at 10 in the morning. Heard about Celeste's sweet deal. He slurred, dropping into a chair across from my desk. Where's mine? Palmer, who was arranging files nearby, shot me a concerned look. I nodded slightly, and she quietly left the room. There is no deal. Vincenzo, Celeste agreed to get help. That's what I want. Help. He spread his arms wide, nearly knocking over my coffee. I'm ready to change, baby sis. Just need some startup capital. The foundation doesn't give out cash. I pulled out a brochure for New Horizons Recovery Center. But we can offer you this. He squinted at it. Rehab? I don't need rehab. I need to stop drinking yourself to death. I stood up, walking to the window. When was the last time you were sober for more than a day? I can quit anytime. Prove it. He laughed. You think you're so smart now with your fancy foundation, acting all high and mighty. Remember when you taught me to ride a bike? I turned to face him. You were 16, patient, kind. What happened to that brother? His face crumpled for a moment before he caught himself. Life happened. No. Choices happened. I sat next to him. The foundation will pay for everything. Rehab, therapy, job training. But you have to commit. And if I don't, then this is the last time we talk until you're sober. He stood up so fast his chair toppled backward. You can't cut me off. I'm family. Family helps each other get better, not worse. I handed him my card. Call me when you're ready, really ready. After he stormed out, Palmer came back in. That was intense. That was actually one of our better conversations. I righted his chair. He'll be back. How can you be sure? Because I saw his hands shaking. He's scared, and for the first time, he has nowhere else to turn. My phone buzzed. Giselle. Again. I let it go to voicemail. Your sister? Palmer asked. The last holdout. She's still convinced she can charm her way into the money. As if on cue, Giselle burst through the door, designer sunglasses perched on her head. Alice, we need to... She stopped short, seeing Palmer. Who's this? Palmer, Uncle Marcus's daughter. Giselle's mouth fell open. The prodigal cousin returns. How much did she have to grovel to get a piece of the pie? Actually, Palmer said coolly, I'm here to help run the foundation's medical programs. I'm a nurse. A nurse? Giselle laughed. With your inheritance, you could... I didn't get an inheritance, Palmer interrupted, and I don't want one. Unlike some people, I understand the value of earning my own way. Giselle's face reddened. Well, aren't you just perfect? Tell me, where were you when your father was dying? Giselle, I snapped. That's enough. Why are you here? Why? She composed herself, switching to her sweet voice. I've been thinking about your foundation idea. It's inspiring. Maybe I could help? I have excellent taste. I could decorate the offices. We need people committed to the mission, not the aesthetics. Fine. Her mask slipped. How long are you going to punish us? We get it. You won Uncle Marcus's twisted game. You won. This isn't a game. I pulled out the foundation's mission statement. This is about helping people who want to change, really change. Like Celeste? Please, she's just playing along to get her piece. Actually, Palmer said, Celeste started therapy last week. She's doing the work. And Vincenzo was just here, I added. He's struggling, but at least he showed up. So that's it? Giselle's voice cracked. I have to hit rock bottom to get your help? No, you just have to be honest. With yourself most of all. She sank into the chair Vincenzo had knocked over. I lost my apartment. I know. I'm sleeping on my friend's couch. I know that too. I don't... She took a shaky breath. I don't know how to do anything real. Palmer and I exchanged looks. That's not true, I said. You used to make clothes, beautiful ones, before you got caught up in the influencer life. That was just a hobby. It could be more. I opened my laptop, showing her the foundation's vocational training programs. We're partnering with the design school downtown. They need teaching assistants for their fashion program. Teaching? She looked uncertain. I've never. You'd start as an assistant, Palmer explained. Learn the ropes. Maybe take some classes yourself. But first, I added, you need to complete the foundation's basic program, including financial management classes. Giselle stared at the screen for a long moment. Would I have to move back home? The foundation has temporary housing for participants. I watched her face carefully. But you'd have to follow the rules. No parties, no social media, just focus on learning. She touched the screen gently. Can I think about it? Of course. I handed her the same card I'd given Vincenzo. Take your time. But remember, this offer is about building a future, not funding one. After she left, Palmer smiled. You're good at this. I learned from the best. I picked up Uncle Marcus's photo from my desk. He always said everyone deserves a chance to rewrite their story. Even the ones who hurt you? Especially them. I looked at the door where both my siblings had walked out. Because sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who need help the most. The call came at 3 a.m. Vincenzo had been found unconscious in his car outside a bar. I rushed to the hospital, finding him hooked up to monitors, his skin a sickly gray. Are you family? A tired-looking nurse asked. I'm his sister. I gripped the rail of his bed. How bad is it? Bad enough to be a wake-up call, good enough to be a second chance. Palmer arrived shortly after, still in her scrubs from her shift at the local clinic. She checked his charts with professional efficiency. Alcohol poisoning, she confirmed. He's lucky someone found him. Ms. Parker? A doctor entered the room. Your brother's been asking for you. Vincenzo's eyes fluttered open as I approached. Hey, baby sis, he croaked. Guess I really screwed up this time. You could have died. Maybe that would have been easier. He tried to smile but winced instead. Can't mess up if you're dead, right? Don't. My voice cracked. Don't you dare joke about this. The doctor says I need rehab. He looked away. For real this time. The offer still stands. The foundation will cover everything. I saw Celeste yesterday, he said quietly, at the foundation. She looked better, different. She's doing the work. 3 weeks sober, back on her meds, attending therapy. And Giselle? Started her training program last week. She's actually showing up on time. He was quiet for a long moment. I always thought I was the strong one, you know? Big brother taking care of everyone. Now look at me. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up. Uncle Marcus used to say that. He grabbed my hand suddenly. I'm scared, Alice. Good. That means you're finally taking this seriously. Palmer stepped in. The rehab center has a bed available, but you need to decide now. He looked between us. Will you visit? Every week, I promised. But you have to stick with it. No more games. Okay. He squeezed my hand. Okay. 3 weeks later, I sat in my office reviewing applications for the Foundation's new Caregiver training program. Celeste knocked on the door, looking professional in her new role as a peer support coordinator. The group therapy session went well, she reported. 2 new members today. How are you handling it? It's healing, actually. Helping others deal with what I've been through. She sat down. Have you heard from Vincenzo? He's earned his first chip, taking it day by day. And Giselle? I smiled. See for yourself. We walked to the Foundation's workshop space where Giselle was teaching a group of women basic sewing skills. She looked up and waved, genuine enthusiasm in her eyes. They're making care packages, she explained during her break. Comfort blankets for hospital patients, my idea. It's a good one, I said, meaning it. I forgot how much I loved actually creating things. She touched a half-finished blanket, not just posting about them. Palmer joined us, carrying a stack of files. The medical program starts next month. We've got 20 applicants already. Uncle Marcus would be proud, Celeste said softly, of all of this. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Found something in Marcus's old files. Need to see you ASAP? I have to go, I told them. Keep up the good work. At Rachel's office, she handed me a sealed envelope. This was in a hidden compartment in his desk, dated 2 days before he died. Inside was a single photograph and a note. The photo showed all of us, me, my siblings, and Palmer, at a family picnic years ago. We were laughing, genuine happiness on our faces. The note read, Alice, if you're reading this, the foundation is working. You've given them something better than money. You've given them purpose. But there's one last secret. Check the safe behind my office painting. The combination is Palmer's birthday. Love, Uncle Marcus. What do you think it is? Rachel asked. Only one way to find out. Back at the house, I moved the painting and found the safe. Inside was another envelope, thicker than the first. My hands shook as I opened it. Letters. Dozens of them. Each one written by Uncle Marcus to Palmer over the years, never sent. And with them, a final note to me. The foundation isn't just about helping strangers. It's about healing our family. Share these when you think they're ready. When the lessons have been learned. When the healing has begun. I sat on his office floor, surrounded by 10 years of unsent love and wisdom, and called Palmer. Can you gather everyone? I asked. There's something you all need to see. Even Vincenzo? I'll clear it with the rehab center. This is important. As I hung up, I looked at the photo again. We were broken now, but we were healing. Uncle Marcus knew that sometimes the greatest act of love is believing in someone's potential to change, even when they don't believe it themselves. Tomorrow we'd read his letters together. Tomorrow we'd take another step toward becoming the family in that old photograph. Tomorrow we'd continue building his legacy, not of wealth, but of transformation. We gathered in Uncle Marcus's study the next evening. Vincenzo, on a supervised visit from rehab, sat nervously on the couch. Celeste perched beside him, her therapy journal clutched in her lap. Giselle had come straight from teaching, still wearing her workshop apron. Palmer stood by the window, arms crossed, trying to look detached. Before I show you these, I said, holding the bundle of letters, you need to understand something. Uncle Marcus wrote these over 10 years, never intending to send them. Why not? Palmer's voice was tight. Because sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we're not ready to hear. I handed her the first letter. This one's from the day you left. Palmer's hands trembled as she unfolded it. My dearest daughter, you stormed out today, calling me a heartless bastard for refusing to fund your latest venture. What you don't understand is that every no breaks my heart. But watching you chase empty dreams, watching you run from responsibility, that breaks it more. I don't want to hear this, Palmer interrupted. Keep reading, Celeste urged gently. Please. You have so much potential, Palmer. Not because of my money, but because of your heart. The way you used to volunteer at the shelter. The way you'd help elderly neighbors with their groceries. That's the daughter I'm trying to save. Palmer sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face. I pulled out another letter, dated 3 years later. This one mentions all of you. Found out today that Palmer's enrolled in nursing school. Had to pretend I didn't know when Celeste mentioned it. My brave girl, finally finding her path. Meanwhile, Vincenzo's drinking more, Celeste is spiraling, and Giselle's chasing fame. But Alice sees what I see, the potential in caring for others. He knew? Vincenzo whispered. About my drinking? He knew everything. I spread more letters on the coffee table. About Celeste's first panic attack, about Giselle's maxed credit cards, about Palmer's volunteer work in Seattle. Why didn't he say anything? Giselle picked up a letter addressed to her. Because we weren't ready to listen, Celeste said. Were we? Palmer was reading another letter, her hands shaking harder. This one's from last year. Saw Palmer on the news today. She organized a free clinic for homeless veterans. My daughter, healing others while her own heart remains broken. Alice asks about her sometimes. They're so alike, both seeing the value in what really matters. I thought he was punishing me, Palmer whispered. All this time. He was protecting you, Vincenzo finished. All of us. I pulled out the final letter, dated the day before he died. This one's for everyone. My dear ones. By now Alice has shown you these letters. I hope you're ready to read them. I hope you've learned what she's trying to teach you. That true worth isn't in a bank account or social media followers. It's in the lives we touch, the hearts we heal. Palmer, my brave nurse, you found your calling despite my cruelty. Vincenzo, You have the strength to overcome your demons. Celeste, your sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's a gift that can help others heal. Giselle, your creativity shines brightest when it serves a purpose beyond yourself. And Alice, you understood first. That's why I chose you. Not to punish them, but to guide them. To show them what I couldn't. Love isn't always kind. Sometimes it's firm. Sometimes it hurts. But it always believes in the possibility of change. All my love, Dad, Uncle Marcus. The room was silent except for muffled sobs. I've been so angry, Palmer finally said. For so long. We all were. Celeste reached for her hand. At him, at ourselves, at each other. But he never gave up on us, Vincenzo added, even when we gave up on ourselves. Giselle picked up the photo from the picnic. Can we ever be this family again? We already are, I said. Look around. Palmer's helping run the medical programs. Celeste is supporting others through mental health challenges. Vincenzo's facing his addiction. You're teaching people to create with purpose. And you? Palmer asked. What did you get out of all this? I got my family back. I gathered the letters. These belong to all of us now, to remind us where we've been and where we're going. The foundation, Vincenzo started, was his gift to all of us, I finished. Not just the money, but the purpose. The chance to become who we were meant to be. Palmer stood up, walking to Uncle Marcus's desk. She ran her fingers over the worn wood. He'd be proud of us, wouldn't he? He already was, I said, showing them one last note I'd found. They'll find their way back to each other. Alice will show them how. And when they do, they'll understand that this was never about inheritance. It was about legacy, about love, the kind that transforms. We stayed there late into the night, reading letters, sharing memories, healing old wounds. It wasn't perfect. Recovery never is. But it was real. And for the first time in years, we were truly a family again. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee and fresh pastries as donors and participants gathered for the Foundation's first anniversary celebration. I watched from the podium as Vincenzo, now 6 months sober, helped elderly participants to their seats. Celeste moved confidently through the crowd, her therapist's badge catching the morning light. Giselle arranged displays of handmade quilts and clothing created by her students. Ready? Palmer appeared beside me, wearing her nurse's uniform. She'd just finished a night shift, but wouldn't miss this. Almost. I adjusted the microphone. Did you see the surprise guest? She smiled. Rachel just texted. They're parking now. The crowd settled as I began my speech. Welcome, everyone. When Uncle Marcus left me his fortune, people thought it was about money. They were wrong. The side door opened, and Rachel walked in with an elderly woman, Marcus's sister, our Aunt Dorothy, who we hadn't seen in years. It was about transformation, I continued, about second chances, about family. Celeste gasped softly, recognizing Aunt Dorothy. Vincenzo straightened his tie nervously. Giselle reached for Palmer's hand. In 1 year, we've helped 53 caregivers receive training. 38 people have completed our addiction recovery program. Our mental health initiative has supported over 100 families. I gestured to the displays around the room. Every quilt, every piece of clothing you see was made by someone learning to create with purpose. Every graduate of our programs has a story of change. Aunt Dorothy was crying quietly in the front row. But the biggest change happened right here. I looked at my siblings. Vincenzo, would you like to share? He stood, hands steady. 6 months ago, I was dying in a hospital bed. Today, I'm helping others find their way to recovery. Uncle Marcus once told me strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up. Celeste spoke next, her voice clear and confident. My anxiety used to feel like a curse. Now I use it to understand others who struggle, to show them they're not alone. My students, Giselle added, touching a nearby quilt, aren't just learning to sew. They're learning what I learned, that true creativity comes from helping others. Palmer stepped forward. I ran away from my father's legacy because I thought it was about money. But standing here, seeing what Alice built, what we all built together, I finally understand. Dad? She looked upward. I get it now. Aunt Dorothy stood shakily. Marcus would be so proud. All those years he worried about you kids, but he knew. She turned to me. He knew you'd bring them home. The foundation isn't just about helping strangers, I said. It's about healing our own wounds so we can heal others. Every person who comes through these doors becomes family. Rachel handed me an envelope. This was in Marcus's final papers. He wanted it open today. Inside was a single photograph. Uncle Marcus at his desk, surrounded by the letters he'd written, smiling at the camera. On the back was written, "The real inheritance was never in my bank account. It was in their hearts. Alice will understand." And I do understand, I said, showing the photo to the crowd. Every person here is part of his legacy. Every life changed, every heart healed, every family reunited. That's what he wanted us to inherit. The applause was interrupted by Vincenzo's phone buzzing. His face lit up as he read the message. "My sponsee just got his 30-day chip," he announced proudly. Celeste hugged him. "That's your third success story this month." "Speaking of success," Giselle added, "the design school wants to expand our program. They're offering scholarships to our graduates." Palmer checked her watch. "I should head home, but..." She looked around at all of us. "Sunday dinner at my place this week?" "Only if you let me cook," Aunt Dorothy insisted. "These old hands still remember your father's favorite recipes." As the celebration continued, I slipped away to Uncle Marcus's study, my study now, though his presence still filled every corner. The photo wall had grown, showing not just old family pictures, but new ones. Vincenzo with his recovery group, Celeste leading therapy sessions, Giselle teaching, Palmer treating patients. Stephen found me there, wrapping his arms around my waist. "You did it," he whispered. "No," I corrected him. "We did it, all of us." "Still," he smiled, "your revenge turned out pretty sweet." It wasn't revenge in the end. It was resurrection. Through the window, I could see my siblings laughing with Aunt Dorothy, surrounded by the people whose lives they'd helped change. Uncle Marcus was right. The real inheritance wasn't money. It was the chance to become who we were meant to be. I touched the last letter he'd written me, framed on my desk. Sometimes the greatest act of love is believing in someone's potential to change, even when they don't believe it themselves. "Thank you," I whispered to his memory, "for trusting me to bring them home." Outside, Palmer was calling my name. It was time to rejoin my family. Not the broken one I'd inherited, but the stronger one we'd built together. Uncle Marcus's true legacy lived on, not in bank accounts or business holdings, but in every life touched, every heart healed, every soul transformed. That was an inheritance worth more than gold.